Hey everyone, it's Sam with Wrestling Overtime with your Raves and Rants review of AEW Dynamite for March 25th of 2020. We start off the show seeing Tony Schiavone, Kenny Omega, and of course Cody Rhodes. They're previewing the tonight's show, and it looks to be interesting. I know that JR can't be there due to his age and his health with the coronavirus pandemic. They aren't giving really a reason why Taz or Excalibur aren't there. Not real sure what is going on with them. I kind of wish they would let us know. However, there is an after show planned for the March 25th show, and I'm going to do it in a separate news and updates broadcast. But Taz is doing a after show on YouTube, on AEW's YouTube, and he is planning on doing that when he can't be there. And as many people as got on the after show YouTube show to find out what Taz thought, I look for it definitely to become a stable as long as Taz can't be there. So I'm not sure whether, I know Taz has some younger kids, not sure whether he's concerned about them getting the coronavirus or the fact that he lives in the New York, New Jersey area, and, travel up in that area has been, let's just say, hectic is probably the word for it. I like how they talk about how Kenny Omega is taking on Sammy Guevara tonight for the AAA Mega Championship, and that Cody is going to be taking on Jimmy Havoc. And Cody talks and puts Jimmy Havoc over about how great of an opponent he is, how he's 3-0 for this year, 2020, so far. And then they do kind of a little, recap on Vanguard 1 and Matt Hardy showing up last week, along with finding out the Exalted One. So then we see Cody Luth, and he comes out to the ring where Brandy is again announcing. And I can't help but I do miss Justin Roberts. I hope he is being safe. I know that he can't travel. He put out a statement earlier this week and everything, and he congratulated Brandy with her announcing and everything. But Brandy has been a nice fresh air as far as being there ringside for different matches and semi-involved or a distraction. Love that she announced Cody tonight and that Cody kisses her and she dances to his music as Jimmy Havoc comes out. And Kenny Omega, I liked him on commentary this show. I really did. He didn't do a lot of it. I know a lot of people say that he is shy and everything, but he was fairly knowledgeable and put together in his commentary. He didn't appear to be shy or that Tony had to prod him a lot. He talked about how Jimmy Havoc, due to his style of wrestling and how Cody really needs to focus, or Jimmy Havoc is going to give him problems. They also bring up how Cody really has to put the Elite's arguments behind him and really get back into wrestling, realizing Jimmy Havoc has nothing to do with the Inner Circle, and kind of focus on him. Tony takes a moment to reassure everyone that JR, Excalibur, and Taz were unable to make it, and they are fine. And of course, he thanks Cody and Kenny for stepping in. And that's when we or I kind of realized that Cody is going to be announcing after his match. And I brought that up earlier in the week. Cody announced that he was going to be with Tony Schiavone this week. But then he also announced his opponent this week being Jimmy Havoc. And I brought up on our Wrestling Overtime Facebook page exactly how is he going to do that. And so I'm glad that they chose Kenny Omega to announce. The only other one that I think that I would have rather had is maybe Brandy, because of she always has a different take on things, it seems like. Havoc, he likes to torture, and he has a high pain threshold, and this gives people problems when they're wrestling. And Kenny Omega said that a lot of people have problems with that. He talked about how last week he missed Tony on commentary. We had Taz, and Tony was doing some of the different interviews around the ring. I actually like Tony doing that. Yes, I love Tony's commentary. I grew up with him, announcing WCW and NAW and things, but I do like his interviews that he does. So it's almost kind of like JR. Him and JR are good at so many things that you hate to tie them down to just, one thing. I enjoyed where Cody is using the figure four. This is the second match in a row that Cody has put the figure four on his opponent. Now, Jimmy Havoc pulled his ears and then poked him in the eye to get out of it. But I like that Cody is bringing the figure four back. It seems like so many years that younger wrestlers were, afraid to use it or didn't want to use it as a tribute to Ric Flair. They didn't want to use his, and I'm doing finger quotes, move. And I like that Cody is using it. People were doing it before Ric Flair. Yes, Ric Flair did make it, very popular. It was one of the first moves that I learned how to do when I was a kid. But I don't think you should throw out a move or never do a move again just because, it's made popular by one wrestler. I like them showing the guys in the back. I liked how Jericho was in the room in the back. I recognized that Austin and Billy Gunn were back there, and obviously Sean Spears. I would have liked for them to be ringside, but from what I understand, I guess Florida kind of lowered the boom on that and said that they were too close and were doing too much. So I guess now they've moved it to the back room. They still look pretty close in area to me, but I don't know, maybe not. It seems like everyone is wanting now to work on Cody's left arm, because I haven't been hearing that Cody has been having problems with his left arm, but I have noticed in the last couple matches that people are going towards his left arm. I can't help but laugh. I thought it was extremely funny, and I definitely was marking out when Cody took off his back belt to throw it to the crowd, meaning Brandy, and she cheered like basically a normal fan would when she caught the back belt. And then Cody was really, really selling the arm. I'm enjoying that. For years, I listened to, or I am in currently, I guess, catching up on JR's Ross report podcast, which was his first podcast. And years ago, right after he left WWE and he started doing the Ross Report, he talked about one of the biggest issues in the WWE was the old-time way of picking a body part and really focusing on that, and how the Four Horsemen did that so well. How different technical wrestlers did that in order to make wrestling look real, look more like a sport. And so I find it interesting that I am currently now listening to those years old, I think they were done in 2015, 2016, the Ross Report. Look it up on your podcatcher. But to hear him talking to Sting, talking to Lance Storm, Rick Steamboat. He even talks to Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo in there. And a lot of times he is at the first part of the Ross Report, he talks about that year's current WWE product and points out a lot of the mistakes and everything. And I'm noticing the stuff that he was pointing out 2014, 2015, 2016 at the Ross Report, they are now fixing or doing in AEW. And I am enjoying the fact that wrestlers are picking body parts and they are focusing on them, and how other wrestlers are learning to sell, not just with their face. I'm getting tired of wrestlers making these nasty, contorted faces that aren't real. I'm enjoying the fact in AEW they are making faces, but they are pain faces. But they're also limping, or when they try to climb up a rope, they're slipping because the leg gives out, or they hit somebody with the arm that the person has been working on and they're reacting to it. They're actually selling the injured or weakened body part that their opponent has been working on. And I am really, really liking that. Cody does 2 crossroads to get the win, and then he goes over and he gets his big hug and a kiss from Brandy. Now, I know that many of you were on Twitter during this match throwing a fit, saying they can't believe here's Cody kissing and hugging his wife, going over to shake Jimmy Havoc's hand, touching the referee, then going back over and kissing and hugging on his wife when we're in a pandemic. I know it's not right. In my head, I know we're in a pandemic. But also in my head and in my heart, I feel like there's some kind of normalcy with that. We all know Cody and Brandy are husband and wife. We all know Cody wants to impress her. He has said that throughout the years, how he wants her to be proud of him. And so I almost think that that's a natural reaction to him. That's something that he wants comfort from. He wants to do. And so I guess it doesn't bother me. Yes, I noticed it. Like I said, the pandemic is in my head. And yes, I read you all's tweets. But I can't help but think that AEW is trying to kind of keep wrestling normal, and I really appreciate that. I like how they then, as Cody is still kind of in the ring, they immediately go to the Jake the Snake Roberts promo where he's setting fireside. To me, this is Also a nod to the pandemic. He's obviously not there this week. They probably heard the fans griping that he was ringside and was around people. So they shot, this promo with him, not obviously backstage. And he talks about how Lance Archer really can't wait to get in the ring with someone from AEW. And that they were supposedly, AEW was taking the best to form the new company. And he brings up Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson and how his phone didn't ring and how he, being Jake the Snake Roberts, is one of the best minds in wrestling, and how they knew he was affiliated with Lance Archer, and he believes that AEW was scared of Lance Archer because they saw what he was doing in the indies, on the independent scene, what he was doing for other wrestling companies, and they were scared of him. And he talks about how he wants a meeting with Cody. He says, he can bring Arn Anderson or Brandy, and he calls her, the Cleopatra to Caesar, and the Delilah to Samson. So I wonder if he is trying to get Cody somewhat emotional. Cody joins Tony over at the announce table, and he said, that he was a little upset at Jake Roberts' promo, and he legitimately was starting to raise his voice and talked about how Lance Archer, as far as he is concerned, can debut next week. Or the next time that Dynamite's on, he can debut whenever he wants. But that he needs to start somewhere. That he needs to take on other people in AEW. That he's not going to start off with Cody Rhodes. That Cody Rhodes is higher up in the rankings. And that Lance Archer's just not going to jump over everybody. How he needs to have a couple matches under his belt. Build himself up. And then Tony says, hey, we've got another video from Darby Allin. And they show it. Man, oh man. All I can say about this video is wow. I absolutely love the creativity of Darby Allin. I can't help it. I can't help but mark out for him. I know he is young. I mean, we're talking, AEW has MJF, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, Sammy Guevara. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. All of them under 25. And, I mean, just unbelievable talent to build upon. But Darby Allin is a different kind of cat, and his creativity at such a young age just blows me away. I've watched a lot of his YouTube stuff, and his story, his character that he's created, how he's willing to go through pain in real life in order for his art. I'm just amazed. And then AEW has now let him make these videos and have now let him be creative with how he grows his character. And in this video, he starts off, he's wearing each of the inner circle's masks. And so he is driving up, and you see a table set. It's almost like in the woods. and he's wearing Jake Hager mask. He's wearing, a Santana mask. He's wearing an Ortiz mask. He's wearing a Sammy Guevara mask. And afterwards, he's setting each mask down on the table. And all the while, he is talking about Kip Sabian. And how Kip Sabian thinks he is super bad, yet he is not. He is not on the level of what Darby has been seeing. And we see him finally wearing his Jericho mask and setting it down and pouring what appears to be gasoline on this table and just lighting it on fire. And as soon as the video hits, Kip Sabian's music hits. And he, of course, comes out with Penelope Ford, and they show him last week with Colt Cabana and what Colt said about him and how Penelope would do a lot better without Kip, and how Kip comes up, has problems, and Colt ends up slapping him. And basically, Kip goes away like a little wounded puppy. But then we see Darby come out. And I think there has been a big difference, in the last 6 months, 7, that AEW has been around in the last year that we've known about Darby Allin, in how he carries himself. I absolutely can't get over his creativity, as far as he's not just the coffin drop boy. He has so many different moves, and it looks like is coming up with more and more moves by the second. I think he is taking advantage of a lot of the older wrestlers being around. I think he is taking advantage of Jake Hager and Cody having the high school wrestling and college wrestling backgrounds. I think he's taking advantage of Jon Moxley's different background of brawling and doing different things to bring the crowd alive and everything. I'm seeing him grow so much. And Cody compares Darby to a young Sting. And Tony immediately says, well, I never thought of that. And Cody then kind of explains what he means, as far as with the fans latching onto Darby and how Sting wore the face paint, and you all of a sudden, boom, saw all kinds of little stingers in the audience. And how now, when they go different places, they are seeing younger and younger kids with their faces painted like Darby Allin. Well, I don't know. I kind of agree with that. I kind of don't. Yes, I see a lot of younger kids latching on to Darby Allin. I think it's because of his attitude, his skateboard background, how available he is on social media, how he's willing to take risks. He's willing to try and do new things. How he's always surprising people. Yes, I think the face paint thing is part of it. But I see him as a combination of maybe Sting, but more so Jeff Hardy. With Jeff Hardy's creativity and his willingness to come up with different moves and artistic talent and getting into the face paint, getting into tattoos, getting into almost risking or taking chances by doing moves that he knew would wow the crowd and get the crowd excited. And when you saw interviews with Jeff Hardy, you saw Jeff Hardy explaining the art and and how he sat down and thought about things. Well, when you watch the first episode on Viceland of The Wrestlers, you can almost hear that with Darby Allin and him explaining how he just wants to give the crowd everything. I don't know. Cody goes into how Darby's really becoming a counter wrestler and how you can't think that you've got one over on Darby because he will turn on you and counter what you think you're going to be doing in a split second. But then, almost immediately, Cody brings it back to how hard Kip hits. And he starts talking about how he's faced both of them, but he believes that Kip probably gave him the better match and hit harder, even though Darby took him to the end. I absolutely love listening to Cody talk to Tony about different wrestlers and the flashbacks, him bringing up different moves that people did, talking about how the outside of the ring they decided needed to be the old bike racks with, AEW promo cloth thrown over it. It's not foam pads that would protect the wrestlers. And how he wants to bring some of that old school flavor back. And I don't know. I can't help but, enjoy that. And enjoy the glee, the little kid you can hear coming out of Cody, when he's talking about it. So I enjoyed this match. I think Darby and Kip are superstars in the making. I hope we maybe get a program. I would love for AEW to sign Darby's wife, Priscilla, and bring her in as his manager / wrestler. I think she also has a lot of creativity. And I would love to see her go up against, Penelope Ford. I would love to see, a mixed tag team match with those two. I think it would be unreal. I do. I can't help it. Then we get Jake Hager. And he's taken on Chico Adams, who's making his AEW debut. And this is pretty much the quick match that it needed to be. And I was applauding AEW for doing that. They made Jake Hager seem like the monster he is. They did not really allow Chico Adams to get any offense on him. And immediately Jake Hager put him in where he raises his arm and wraps his arms around to put a sleeper. But because his arm is right up against his neck and he's putting pressure on both of them using, Chico Adams' own arm against his own neck to apply additional pressure, plus sinking down and putting the weight of his body on him. I mean, he quickly puts him to sleep and wins the match. And Jake Hager is out there alone. We've already seen Chris Jericho in the back. We know he's there. They've advertised he is going to confront Matt Hardy. And we know Sammy Guevara is taking on Kenny Omega. So a little shocked that they weren't out there by ringside with him, and then out there celebrating with him. Especially when Jon Moxley walks out. I love this. I love that Jon Moxley cut a promo and said, look, I'm not medically cleared, but once I am, you better be watching your blind spot. I'm coming after you guys. Well, he walks out and basically drops his title, and they start exchanging blows. And then Moxley hits the paradigm shift. And I'm thinking, there we go. Well, no. As he hits that, Jake Hager pretty much bounces up, and we've yet to see anyone do that out of the paradigm shift. And he gets Jon Moxley into an ankle lock and tries to basically lock that in and get Moxley to give up or to break his ankle. Now, luckily, Moxley rolls out of it, and as he rolls out of it, Hager ends up out of the ring. Jon Moxley is trying to goad him to get back in the ring, but we see Jake Hager basically walk away, and Cody says that these two may be on a collision course. Yeah, I definitely think they are. I kind of wanted the back and forth of Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho to continue, but I have realized that they are moving Chris Jericho on over basically to the Elite. And when you look at the Elite and how they're set up, there's not really anyone that can handle Jake Hager. Yeah, maybe Hangman Page. But I also think somewhere in this storyline, Adam Hangman Page is going to break from the Elite. So I think we're going to have Santana Ortiz versus the Young Bucks. We're going to have Kenny Omega and Cody against Jericho and Sammy, which kind of leaves Jake Hager odd man out. So it makes the go ahead kind of start a program with Jon Moxley. So I am interested in this. I'm interested in what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, where are they going to go with this storyline, especially since we don't hear Jake Hager talk a lot. So I wonder if this is going to be kind of one-sided. They go to commercial, and then Tony immediately says, oh, we've got a camera backstage, Jon Moxley's wanting to talk, and I expect there to be some kind of interview, but it's not. It's literally Moxley talking straight to the camera, reminding the Inner Circle that they better be checking their blind side, and says that when the championship's on the line, Hager is going to be carted out on a stretcher, or he, meaning Moxley, is going to die trying in the ring. Typical Moxley promo, but not great. He was fired up. I like how he basically said the next program is me and Hager. Wish they would have left that a little up in the air, but wish Moxley would have cut a little bit longer promo. Wish he would have went off on some other things, but just quick, easy, simple, done. Then AEW flashes back to, Brody Lee's arrival as the Exalted One. And I thought, they're gonna show like a total lead up. No, I forgot. They're not the WWE. AEW put together a totally different package. And it was spliced together from Brody Lee's package of him coming down the hallway talking and revealing himself with things that the Dark Order has been saying all these last couple months about the Exalted One being near and what he believes and what the Dark Order stands for, and then Brody Lee saying certain things, and it was, I don't know, it was different. And I liked how they interspliced it and kind of went back and forth. Cody and Tony talk about how Brody Lee has now given basically a different vibe to the Dark Order, and I agree. And they talk about how people now are a little scared, a little worried about where this is going to go, what's going to happen. And then Tony immediately throws to a video package of how Brody Lee treats his minions. And we see him slicked back a little bit, dressed in a suit, sitting at a table with two of his minions. He is eating a steak. His minions have not touched their plate. And he is basically talking about strengths and numbers and how they are lines that need to prey on the weak. And one minion goes to eat his steak and he's thrown out by Brody Lee saying, "I'm not done yet, and you don't eat before I'm done," and all of this. And then the other minion sneezes, and of course Brody Lee goes nuts and throws him out, and then sits down to basically finish his steak. I absolutely love this. I hope AEW continues to allow Brody Lee basically to poke at Vince McMahon with his inside jokes. Like I said a little earlier, I've been with the Ross Report from many years ago, his podcast. I can't encourage you guys enough to look that up. I couldn't find it on Pocket Casts. I usually use Pocket Casts. I ended up having to use Castbox to get it. But it is so interesting, and it talks. You hear Jim Ross, he has just left the WWE, telling stories about Vince McMahon, and one of the things that he talks about is, Vince believing back in the war of WCW and WWE, how there were strength in numbers, and how WWE was the lion and WCW was their prey, and how they had to gather numbers and just take away their talent and beat them basically by pure force. And that's just an inside joke. There's another story where Vince McMahon didn't want people to eat before him. That he didn't care for you to eat with him, but he didn't like it if he was late or running behind or anything like that, and you would eat before him. And then, of course, for, the last 5 years, there have been stories about how Vince McMahon is a germaphobe, and how he absolutely hates sneezing. And even Stephanie McMahon has admitted that on different podcasts, different shows. I believe she even mentioned it one time on ESPN, how her father can't stand for anyone to sneeze in his presence. So I really hope AEW continues allowing Brody Lee to make these inside jokes about Vince McMahon. It's cool. It's an insight. It makes people who haven't been following the WWE that they can look stuff up. They can enjoy moments or stories and learn a little bit of wrestling history, which I think JR, Tony, and Cody, and even Tony Khan are in on. They want you to know wrestling history. They want you to know the older wrestlers and the old wrestling stories. But it also gives those of us who have followed the WWE and know the stories little jokes that everybody isn't a part of until they look it up. And so I can't help it. I think that's cool. We see QT Marshall come out, and Cody immediately says, this is one of my best friends, and this is, Sherry Lynn's baby boy, and how he is one of the great wrestling younger trainers around, and then makes a comment about how QT has gotten hair replacement surgery, and it's finally coming in the front. I'm not sure whether that's a joke or he really has. I haven't heard that he got that, but he does have a lot of hair in the front. So I don't know if that's true or Cody's just, ribbing him or what. But then we immediately see the Exalted One's rival. Brody Lee comes out and he has a minion with him. And the way they are presenting him in his boots, his outfit, his robe, he has a stature about him and an attitude about him that I believe that we did not see in the WWE with Luke Harper. I talked several episodes ago about how they changed him from Luke Harper. I was hoping he would cut his hair or shave his beard or trim his beard or come out with a new outfit and not be a heel jack. That I could not see Luke Harper from the Wyatt family running the Exalted One, the Dark Order, and was a little disappointed last week and expressed that in the episode last week that he didn't change his look. However, seeing him come out, he does have a different demeanor, a different attitude. Seeing him in that suit and ordering the minions around and coming with almost a regal presence into the ring, and he basically immediately hits QT with the big boot and throws him out of the ring and then throws him into the bike rack. But it doesn't look like it is strenuous for him. That it is easy. It comes very easy to him. So I liked how they presented him. It is different than Luke Harper. And I don't know why I was worried knowing AEW and how they've done things, basically for the last year and a half. But I don't know. I guess I was expecting Luke Harper. And this Brody Lee character is different. Cody then brings up another older wrestler from the past, and he compares Brody Lee's agility to Kevin Nash, to Diesel. And that got me thinking. I never saw that in WWE. I always heard people talk about Luke Harper being a breakout star. You heard Triple H, you heard Steve Austin say that they saw his athleticism at the Performance Center and everything. I never got to see that, though, in WWE. I either missed it in the time that I was away from wrestling, or I just wasn't watching the right matches, I guess. I don't know. But seeing him in AEW, I see a new person. He's rejuvenated, I guess. And then he uses the discus lariat for the win. And we see a minion come in, and I'm expecting him basically to beat down QT Marshall. But instead he pulls out a mask and drops it on QT Marshall. So is that going to be their calling card? That they're going to drop a mask on everyone? Or are they asking QT Marshall to join the Dark Order? It almost sounded like Tony Schiavone didn't really know. And Cody made the comment, should QT Marshall join the Dark Order? I'm almost wondering if he should. I know Cody said, boom, in the beginning, right out of the gate, he's one of my best friends. Maybe he needs to join the Dark Order and give them inside information. I don't know. That might be an interesting program or interesting kind of way of going about things. I don't know. I've not been interested in QT Marshall until now. So I am going to follow this. Then we have a quick flashback to the Inner Circle winning the advantage in the Blood and Guts match over the Elite, and then Vanguard 1 coming down to announce the arrival of Matt Hardy to AEW, and Matt Hardy then kind of cuts a mini promo stating that the Bucks of Youth have let him know about the transgressions of the Inner Circle and that he is here to delete the Inner Circle. And then they go back to 2 weeks before and show how Nick Jackson was hurt, and it kind of led to, Matt Hardy showing up to take his place. They don't really mention that Blood and Guts has now been postponed, but Tony throws it, and he says he wants to go to the West Coast correspondent, which is Vanguard 1. And I'm not used to Vanguard 1. I'm just going to be real honest with you guys. I have not been following Matt Hardy's Broken Universe on YouTube. I need to get caught up on that. And the Hardy Compound and, King Max. And I've seen some of it on Twitter, but haven't watched all of his videos. So I'm not really fully, versed on Vanguard 1 and what he's been up to. So I'm interested to them throwing it, to this new West Coast correspondent, where we see Nick Jackson working out in what appears to be his garage, doing pull-ups, doing some burpees, and Vanguard 1 shows us that he's at about a 61% recovery. And then we see Nick notice him, and he tries to get him to talk to him, but Vanguard 1 flies off. So then we hear Sammy Guevara's music hit. And he comes out and is immediately starting to flirt with Brandy. And I thought, well, we're going to get a rise out of Cody here. I was shocked. We didn't. Cody really didn't say a whole lot about it. And I don't know whether he should or not. I kind of wanted him to. I kind of wanted him to talk about Sammy Guevara. He didn't. He stayed in his kind of commentator role. But I did want him to say something. I even wanted him to maybe even say, I'm not going to worry about this. Brandy can hold her own with him or something. I don't know. Then we see Sammy go over to his friends, and yeah, I'm doing the air quotes, that are in the stands. He's gotten caricature pictures over there, and one of them is of Jericho, and then one of them, like Cody says, is of a Star Trek captain, and it just says Captain on there. I thought it looked like Captain Kirk. Now, Cody says it's not. And during the match that he has with Kenny Omega, Cody's trying to figure it out. He's naming all the captains from Star Trek because, any of you who don't know, Cody is the big Star Trek, Star Wars, Harry Potter, all of that nerd. And he finally says that Christopher Daniels says that it's Chris Pine and that it's him as the captain. I don't know. But he also has a caricature of Brandy sitting over in his friend section. And then, of course, we see Kenny Omega come out. And he has his tag team belt that he has with Hangman Page, and then he is carrying his AAA Mega Championship belt also that he won back in October of 2019. So he's had it, what is that, about, I don't know, 6-7 months, something like that. And then the camera flashes over and Sammy is sitting in a chair with these characters, these pigs of all the different people. So Brandy announces them, and I loved it. Cody makes the comment that Brandy announced Kenny better than she ever announced him. She drew it out more like Justin Roberts did so that Kenny could do his different arm motions and hand signals. I thought that was a pretty nice touch, They immediately basically go outside the ring for, a brawl. And then as Kenny throws Sammy over towards his friend, basically, Sammy kisses the picture of Brandy and licks her. I'm sorry, they flashed the camera at Brandy at exactly the right time. I have a funny feeling that Brandy had no clue that Sammy was going to do that, because the look of horror that is on her face is priceless. And I don't believe that was her acting. I believe that they did not tell her Sammy was going to do that. And that's just a natural reaction. I thought that was hilarious. They go to commercial, and after commercial, we see Sammy, he's over towards where Brandy is sitting, and he is almost talking to Brandy. Kenny interrupts it and throws him into the steps twice, and then throws him into the ring. And Cody makes the comment that, I guess while we were away, I'm not sure why they didn't do picture-in-picture in the commercials on this one, but while we were away, that Sammy had let Kenny rest too long and kind of get back into the match. So obviously, Sammy had did some offense and was taking advantage of Kenny being injured or hurt or incapacitated, whatever, to talk to Brandy. But then they show the backstage where the gambling's been going on, and Sean Spears is fighting with Austin and Billy Gunn, and they end up throwing him out of the room and going after him. So then we see a period of time where Sammy is working on Kenny's right arm, right hand, and Cody fills us in that Kenny has a boxer's fracture and that he's broken his hand. It's healing. He's got it taped up / in a kind of cast material, and he tries to make a comeback using the double axe handles and getting those going. He hits, I don't know, about 3 or 4 of those. But again, love the selling by Kenny that the double axe handles are making that right hand hurt, making that right arm hurt. So Sammy makes kind of a comeback. until Kenny hits him with some high knees and then hits him with the one-winged angel for, the win. We go to commercial, and Kenny, rejoins the announcer stable. So we have Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, and Tony Schiavone there as Chris Jericho's music hits. And we all know Judas has basically swept the nation, especially the wrestling universe. And we see him walk out to confront Matt Hardy. And he goes down, takes, the camera away from one of the cameramen while they sing the ending of Judas. And then he climbs in the ring. He talks about how he's known Matt Hardy for basically over 25 years, and he wants to give him a chance kind of to change his mind. He feels like Matt Hardy doesn't really understand AEW, doesn't understand the differences between the inner circle and the elite, and he wants to give him information and allow him a chance to change his mind. So he basically calls out Matt Hardy and says, I know you're here. So we have Vanguard 1, who I thought was on the West Coast, but I guess he's zapped right down onto Florida. And he comes out and Jericho says, Vanguard 1, I don't like you. I've never liked you. You're arrogant. I don't like your beliefs. I don't like your political views that you put out there on social media. And I'm thinking, does Vanguard 1 have an account on social media that I need to be following for Wrestling Overtime? So I make a note. I need to look for Vanguard 1 and see, kind of what's going on. Cody acts like he is amazed, but also is a little amused, and he says, is Chris Jericho cutting a promo on a drone? Well, yeah, and I think this is part of what makes Chris Jericho so great, is he's really being serious, and he is cutting a promo on a drone. Because then he starts talking about how he respects Vanguard, and he wants him to join the inner circle, and he talks about how he'll pour bubbly in his gas tank. I couldn't help but laugh. I thought, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. But basically Vanguard 1 flies away, and we hear Matt Hardy's music hit. And they show him at the top of the arena at Daly's place, and then they show him at the middle, and then they show him at the bottom, but he's on the left, and then he's on the right, and then, he's in the middle of the bottom, and he's just popping around, and then he's near ringside. And so they make the comment that he's basically teleporting everywhere. But I notice he's climbing into the ring. And I realize that Jim Cornette made an absolute, cut this apart and said this was the best thing he's ever seen. Like I said, haven't been following the Broken Universe, and he didn't do it well at all in WWE. I, of course, read and saw so many comments about how WWE would not let him do it the way he had basically did it in Impact and TNA before, and how he did it on his YouTube channel. So I am a little interested in it. So I love how he gets into the ring and says, the maker of pain, you knew I would come, after Jericho's Painmaker persona that he has developed in New Japan and still shows in the graphics as he comes out. And Jericho asks how he did all of that. So Matt Hardy replies that he is magic. And I enjoy how Chris Jericho stays in character. He's being very serious. He is not smirking at Matt Hardy doing this gimmick. He is not laughing. He is treating him like Matt Hardy, not like broken Matt Hardy or crazy Matt Hardy. He starts talking about how he is AEW and that Jericho made AEW and that because of him it exists, that fans started following it, that they came to see him, and how Matt Hardy will want to align himself with the inner circle. And Matt Hardy kind of cuts him off and says, the Bucks of Youth rescued him and gave him his freedom and dug him up, and that he believes that this is paradise, and Jericho and the inner circle are trying to ruin paradise, and that it needs to be protected at all costs. And Jericho comes out with "I Can Make You" and asks him to join the inner circle. Well, Matt Hardy then tries to explain, I believe, broken Matt Hardy to Chris Jericho, because I think Matt Hardy realizes that Jericho is not taking him serious and that he has a different belief in who he is. So broken Matt Hardy says, my vessel, my body looks the same to you. However, I am different, that I have a different essence inside this vessel, and that I'm not who you think I am. I am Damascus. I am over 3,000 years old. So Jericho almost decides like he's going to play along with this and talks about how wise then he must be, and how he, like Matt Hardy, has always changed. And he talks about the different personas and characters that Chris Jericho has taken on throughout the years. But he talks about how Matt Hardy has always been a step behind, and that he's always been living in the shadow of his younger brother, of bad booking, and he's been living in Jericho's shadow. And to this, you almost see Matt Hardy slip and kind of make a little bit of a face and say he's not living in anyone's shadow any longer. So Jericho just finally comes out with it and says, are you Inner Circle or the Elite? So Matt Hardy responds with the Elite. And Jericho asks again and gets the same response, and asks again and gets the same response. And then Matt Hardy turns and starts doing his delete motion and saying it to the fans there. And Jericho says, he calls him out on this. He says, you can respond like this, but there's no one here to chant your catchphrases. And the look on Matt Hardy's face as he turns around is a look of almost wonderment, where he says, no, there are essences all around. They're all throughout the stadium. And he talks about Jericho's theme song, Judas, and how Judas betrayed him also a long time ago. And Jericho says, there are no fans. I banned them. I have banned them until I say so. So there's not any fans here. And Matt Hardy then starts pointing out that he sees Abraham Lincoln and how over there is Martin Luther King Jr. and there's Maximilian, and Jericho says that he doesn't see a different essence in Matt Hardy. He just sees the same old Matt Hardy. And maybe I should just smack it out of you. And so he hauls off and slaps Matt Hardy, who hits him back and knocks Jericho down. Well, I've been wondering where they are, and we immediately see Sammy Guevara attack Matt Hardy. And then we see Cody and Kenny Omega leaving the announcer's table with chairs, and they hit Jericho. Jericho rolls out of the ring, and then they proceed to get Sammy, who is beating the garbage out of Matt Hardy, and start hitting him with the chair where he slides out. And then as they go back, as Jericho and Sammy go back towards the heel tunnel, Matt Hardy starts doing delete and pyro goes off. So then we see Jericho and Sammy go more over to the babyfaces tunnel, and we see Matt Hardy doing delete and pyro going off. And then he starts doing delete, 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 and fire pyro is going off everywhere. And then we hear the famous Tony catchphrase, "Folks, we're out of time." And I have missed that so much. I am so glad that AEW did that. Like, we are running out of time. We wish we could show you this, but we can't. And I love that. Overall, I loved this show. It was completely different than last week. Last week, they were trying to have heels on one side and baby faces on another and cheering and almost having a crowd. They had the gambling going on. They had Tony ringside interviewing different people. It was more fun-filled until the end. But this week seemed more serious. It seemed more about moving storylines along. With finding out about the Dark Order and them inviting QT Marshall. Starting maybe a Darby Allin, Kip Sabian feud. Having Kenny Omega take on Sammy for a title brings Sammy up a level, but yet still keeps the Elite and the Inner Circle going. Starting the Moxley, Jake Hager program, hopefully. And then, of course, starting yet continuing the Jericho Matt Hardy, along with Inner Circle Delete. So it was about progressing storylines. And my goodness, I wish all promotions would do this and have set up storylines that have different branches that go. It's not just the Elite versus the Inner Circle. It's now Matt Hardy and Jericho and Moxley and Hager and Sammy and Kenny and the Bucks and Santana and Ortiz, and it has different branches branching off of it. And I absolutely can't wait for the Dark Order to start and get involved with, Christopher Daniels and SCU and bringing that about. And then the Death Triangle with the Lucha Brothers and Pac. And, we've got so many different storylines that are branching out that I'm loving it. They're keeping me interested in their storylines, and by mentioning little things, they're making me want to go to YouTube. I've never been a big YouTube person, but they make me want to go to YouTube and look up old matches, or look up Broken Matt Hardy, or look up Being the Elite, or Road to Blood and Guts. They're wanting me to connect with them on different social mediums, and I enjoy that. I really do. What I want you guys to tell me is, what did you think of this show? What do you think about the YouTube connection that AEW is trying to make? Do you go and watch the YouTube stuff? Do you follow Road to Blood and Guts? Do you go and watch Being the Elite? Should I go back and watch Broken Matt Hardy videos and really find out what that's all about? What should I do? Give me some recommendations. Is there any matches that I'm missing? Like, do you have any favorites of Darby Allin that you want me to see? Or anything like that? Guys, write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com, or come over to our Facebook page, Wrestling Overtime, and write. There's a place on there where you can shoot me messages, but you can write on different articles that are put up. I am putting up different rumors on Wrestling Votes and on Brad Chepler, that they are making on what's going down with AEW, what's going down with WWE. So don't be afraid to hit me up. Please review us on Podchaser. Not everybody has Apple. So if you're listening to me on Apple Podcasts, hey, that's great. Leave me a review there. But for all of you who don't have Apple, Podchaser is one place where you can go and actually rate different podcasts and leave reviews and get comments back and stuff. If there's anywhere else that you guys leave reviews and you want me to comment back, feel free. We're on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and leave comments there. I would love that if you guys would do that. Feel free to leave us reviews and let me know what's going on. I want to connect with you, so you guys will connect with me. And I can't wait to hear from you guys, and I will be talking to you guys soon.